People like to make fun of Ohio, but in the 1800s, it was the place to be. It was the third most populated state for a long time, and 6 of the US presidents during the 1800s were from Ohio. Ohio was an economic powerhouse with fertile farmland, great natural resources, and booming industries. Cincinnati was known as the Queen City of the West, and it was a meatpacking capital, and everyone called it Porkopolis. Cleveland was the Beverly Hills of the 1800s, and it had the most millionaires outside of New York. Toledo was known as the glass capital, Akron was the rubber capital, and Dayton was the city of inventions. The airplane, cash register, barcode, and liquid crystal display were all invented in Dayton. Ohio was the gateway from the east to the west. The Erie Canal connected it to New York City, and the Ohio River connected it to the Mississippi. Ohio played a massive role during the Underground Railroad. It actually had more routes than any other state. And speaking of railroads, they were everywhere. By 1860, Ohio had over 3,000 miles of track. And fun fact, many of the railroads were converted to bike paths, making Ohio the state with the most bike paths today. People in the 1800s were not making fun of Ohio. Also, if you love Ohio, I made some Ohio merch that you can check out at jakeexplains.com. Cincinnati, Ohio. People make fun of it now.
I should get to spend eternity in a medium place, like Cincinnati.
But Cincinnati didn't used to be a medium place. It was the Queen City of the West. It was one of America's fastest growing cities. It was booming so much that there were more jobs than people. This led to thousands of German immigrants coming to Cincinnati in the 1800s. 1 in 3 Cincinnatians were German. Germans turned Cincinnati into a brewing powerhouse, and even today, Cincinnati throws the largest Oktoberfest outside of Germany. Over the Rhine in Cincinnati is named after the Rhine River in Germany, and it's actually one of America's most intact historic neighborhoods. Cincinnati was the Paris of America because of all of its European-style architecture. It was also the capital of meatpacking. Pigs roamed the streets in Cincinnati, and it was nicknamed Porkopolis. When you go to Cincinnati now, you'll notice flying pigs everywhere, and they even turned it into an art celebration. The first professional baseball team was in Cincinnati, and cornhole was invented in Cincinnati. There's a reason Midwesterners are the best at it. Play-Doh and the Magic 8 Ball were invented there, and of course, you can't forget about Skyline Chili. Cincinnati was doing so well that it almost had a subway. The largest abandoned subway system in the United States is in Cincinnati. Unfortunately, after the Great Depression, it was never finished. People in the 1800s were not making fun of Cincinnati. They were moving to it. Cleveland, Ohio. People make fun of it now, but did you know it used to be the OG Beverly Hills? There was this 4-mile stretch called Millionaire's Row that had over 250 mansions. Mark Twain even called it the most beautiful street in the world. And some of these mansions were crazy, and most were built by famous architects. This mansion had 35 rooms, 12 bathrooms, and 30 fireplaces. They were all unique, had beautiful gardens, and the whole street was lit by gaslit lamps. The richest man in the world, John D. Rockefeller, had a mansion there. So did the politician Mark Hanna, the inventor Charles Brush, and Samuel Mather. Charles Brush's mansion was the first to have electricity using a wind turbine generator. Fun fact, Cleveland was the first U.S. city to have electric street lighting, and the 3-position traffic light was invented there. Cleveland was an industrial powerhouse. It produced more steel than anywhere besides Pittsburgh, and it's the birthplace of the modern oil industry. It had so many millionaires that it was one of the richest cities in the whole world. Unfortunately, today, most of the mansions are gone, but some are still standing, like the Mather House on Cleveland State's campus. People may make fun of Cleveland today, but back in the day, it was the place to build your mansion. Columbus, Ohio. There's something different about Columbus. It's the only major Rust Belt city that never lost its population. Look how Cleveland and Cincinnati peaked, but Columbus continued to grow. Columbus never declined because it's always had multiple industries. Back in the day, it was big on buggies. It had the nickname Buggy Capital of the World. 1 in 6 buggies were made in Columbus. By the way, I made some Ohio merch if you want to check it out, like this one. Columbus also had the nickname Arch City because it was one of the first cities to light its streets using gaslit arches, and a lot of these arches are still there today. It's home to The Ohio State University, but it's also a retail and fashion capital. Victoria's Secret, Abercrombie & Fitch, Express, and Bath & Body Works are all headquartered in Columbus. Columbus is strong in fast food. Wendy's was born in Columbus, and it was one of the first fast food chains to introduce the drive-thru window. White Castle and Bob Evans are headquartered in Columbus too. Another thing Columbus has always had going for it is its centralized location. Back in the day, it had key railroads linking the east to the west, and today it houses massive Amazon, UPS, and FedEx distribution centers. Makes sense because Columbus is within a 10-hour drive of 50% of the US population. Columbus is the leading tech city in Ohio today. Intel's building a massive chip factory there, and the defense company Anduril. Columbus didn't rise because of one single industry like other Rust Belt cities. It's always had multiple things going for it, and it continues to grow. Dayton, Ohio. Do you realize how much shit was invented there? The cash register was invented in Dayton, the backpack parachute, the liquid crystal display, the first functional device for open heart surgery, and the barcode. The electric car starter was invented in Dayton. Before that, you had to literally use a hand crank to start your car. Space food was invented in Dayton, as well as Cheez-Its. The pull-tab pop can was invented in Dayton. Before that, to open a can of pop, you needed a key. Dayton's most famous invention was, of course, the airplane. The airplane was invented by the Wright brothers in 1903. And just to clear the air, they only first flew it in North Carolina because it has good wind. All the inventing was done in Dayton. Leaded gasoline was invented and first sold in Dayton. Freon was invented in Dayton, which allowed normal people to have refrigerators. The ice cube tray was also invented in Dayton. Oh, and we also can't forget about the stepladder. Fun fact, in 1900, Dayton had the most millionaires per capita in the United States. Dayton was also known as the patent capital. It had the most patents out of every city in 1900. The crazy thing is, this was not even all the inventions in Dayton. By the way, I made some Ohio merch, like this Birthplace of Aviation shirt. You can get it at jakeexplains.com. Akron, Ohio. Did you know it used to be the rubber capital of the world? From 1910 to 1920, the population tripled in size because of rubber. Goodyear, Firestone, B.F. Goodrich, and General Tire were all founded in Akron. Akron made an insane amount of tires. By the 1930s, over half the tires in America were made in Akron. But Akron has some other surprises that you might not know. Like the first police car used in the United States was in Akron, and it was actually a converted electric wagon. And get this, the first Quaker Oats factory was in Akron, and this is what it looks like today. Goodyear made gas masks and rubber boots for soldiers during war, and they made blimps. You're probably familiar with the famous Goodyear blimp, but they actually made hundreds of airships for the US Navy. They built these for coastal patrolling, and they built this behemoth, which served as a flying aircraft carrier. This was the biggest blimp they ever built, and it could launch and receive fighter planes. The wars and the rise of the automobile allowed Akron to flourish, but there were some health consequences with being the rubber capital. The city was so smoggy and smoky from the factories that it was nicknamed Smoky Hollow, and many of the workers were unfortunately exposed to high amounts of benzene and asbestos. Akron, much like Detroit, was too dependent on one industry. Once foreign competition came in, it kind of lost its magic like other Rust Belt cities. But for most of the last century, Akron was a key city driving America forward. This is the largest mural in the United States, 3,000 gallons of paint across 28 silos, and you wouldn't believe where it's at. Toledo, Ohio. But that's not even the craziest thing about Toledo. Did you know it was the glass capital of the world? The first fully automatic bottle making machine was invented there. It could crank out 1,000 bottles per hour. Back in the day, your ketchup bottles, milk bottles, and car windshields came out of Toledo. But Toledo didn't stop there. Fiberglass was also invented in Toledo, and it's used for everything from home insulation to astronaut suits. Toledo pioneered making glass sheets, allowing skyscrapers to have large windows. And Toledo developed specialized glass for old TVs and early computer monitors. And get this, Toledo birthed the studio glass art movement in America, and here are some of the early pieces. Toledo is still all about glass today. It has a bunch of indie studios where you can go watch artists blow glass or even make your own. And Toledo Museum of Art's Glass Pavilion is made entirely out of curved glass, and it has one of the world's most renowned glass collections. What's insane is this all was because Toledo had an abundance of natural gas. Edward Libby moved his glass factory from Massachusetts to Toledo in 1888, and Toledo became the glass capital of the world. Weird things that are only in Ohio. The world's largest cuckoo clock is in Ohio. It's over 23 feet tall. Cornhenge is in Ohio, a field of over 100 giant ears of corn. Guess where the world's largest ball of hair is? Ohio. The world's largest rubber stamp is in Cleveland. The world's largest basket is in Ohio. It's actually a 7-story building, and the world's largest washboard is in Ohio too. Ohio has the world's largest collection of historical contraceptives. The world's largest horseshoe crab is in Ohio, and you can actually walk inside it. There's a restaurant in Ohio where famous people sign hot dog buns. Okay. There's a perfectly round, mysterious water hole in Ohio that never freezes. The world's largest excavator was in Ohio, and now you can go walk inside its bucket. There's a medieval castle near Cincinnati that one man built stone by stone. The oldest traffic light is in Ohio, and the world's smallest Kroger. Ohio has a pencil sharpener museum with over 3,000 pencil sharpeners. There's a museum with over 20,000 troll dolls, and a cat museum inside an old bank. This stone temple is in Ohio. A guy built this in his backyard over 20 years, and you can go visit it today. There's a wacky museum in Mansfield that has a massive taxidermy collection, as well as one of the first robots ever built. It's called Electro, and it could walk, talk, and smoke cigarettes. It was ahead of its time. There's a lot of weird things that are only in Ohio, and if you like the meme, I made some merch that you can go check out. Cool things that are only in Ohio. In Ohio, you can visit a prehistoric mound shaped like a snake. Serpent Mound is 2,000 years old and 419 meters long. The head is actually aligned with the summer solstice, and the whole thing is inside a meteor crater. One of the best museums in the country is in Dayton, the Wright-Patterson Air Force Museum. It has hundreds of planes like World War II fighters, a stealth bomber, presidential airplanes, and even a missile and space gallery. Jungle Gyms in Ohio is something that everyone has to experience. It's a massive international grocery store that's basically a theme park. In Ohio, you can find Lost Lands, the biggest dubstep festival in the Midwest. In Ohio, you can visit the prison used for Shawshank Redemption. There's the Ohio Caverns, Put-in-Bay, and Amish country. Ohio has Cedar Point, which is debatably the best theme park in the United States, and there's Kings Island too. There's the Columbus Zoo, which is the second largest in the United States, and the Cincinnati Zoo, which was famous for Harambe. Ohio has the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland and the NFL Hall of Fame in Canton. In Ohio, you can find the quirky town of Yellow Springs, which has a vibrant art scene, street fairs, and Dave Chappelle's comedy club. Ohio has a national park. Cuyahoga Valley is beautiful with waterfalls, a scenic railroad, and amazing wildlife. And there's Hocking Hills in southeast Ohio, which has amazing hiking and insane rock formations. Ohio has the Cincinnati Museum Center, which is insane. It's multiple museums in one, and it's housed in a 90-year-old train station. Cincinnati also has a really cool neon sign museum. Surprisingly, there's a lot of cool things that you can only experience in Ohio. I made some cool Ohio merch that you can check out too. Ohio has this crazy reputation where people are born in Ohio but then leave and do amazing things. 7 US presidents were born in Ohio but then left to lead the country. Thomas Edison was born in Ohio but then left to invent the light bulb and hundreds of other things. The Wright brothers were born in Ohio but then left to fly their airplane in North Carolina. Neil Armstrong was born in Ohio but then left to become the first man on the moon. John Glenn was born in Ohio and became the first person to orbit Earth. What's insane is 21 astronauts were born in Ohio. It's like people from Ohio want to get as far away as possible. Steven Spielberg was born in Cincinnati but then left to make Jaws, Jurassic Park, and Indiana Jones. LeBron James was born in Ohio but then left to win championships in Miami. Steph Curry was also born in Ohio. Simone Biles born in Ohio and then left to win 7 Olympic golds. Halle Berry was Miss Ohio USA and then she left to become an Oscar-winning actress. Katie Holmes left Ohio to become a Hollywood star. And Paul Newman left Ohio to win an Academy Award and have a legendary career. Dave Grohl was born in Ohio and then left to drum for Nirvana and start Foo Fighters. What's up with Ohio? I feel like there has to be something in the air. Also, I made some Ohio merch available at jakeexplains.com, including this Alien Corn Ohio t-shirt. The creepiest places in Ohio. The Ridges in Athens, a former insane asylum with patient graveyards and a famous stain. The Ohio Reformatory in Mansfield, an abandoned prison made famous by Shawshank Redemption, known for shadowy figures and cold spots. Helltown, an abandoned village with legends of ghosts, cults, and serial killers. Crybaby Bridges. Ohio has multiple bridges with legends of ghostly babies crying. The Franklin Castle in Cleveland, a Victorian mansion with a dark history of deaths and hidden rooms. Old Man's Cave in Hocking Hills. This place got its name from a real person. Richard Rowe, who lived in Old Man's Cave, died from an accidental gunshot wound and has been haunting the attraction ever since. Moonville Tunnel, an old railroad tunnel deep in the woods with very weird vibes at night. Thurber House in Columbus, a haunted house built on the grounds of an old psychiatric hospital. Licking County Historic Jail. 22 people have died in this haunted prison. Witches Tower in Dayton. It's officially a lookout tower, but locals say it's cursed. Ohio has a lot of creepy places. If you know any more, leave it in the comments. Here are the different kinds of people who live in Ohio. The grass enthusiast, someone whose life revolves around when they are going to mow next. The tailgater, someone who will always ride your ass even if you are going above the speed limit. The redneck, you'll see them driving big trucks, wearing camo clothing, and drinking Busch Light at barn parties. The Amish. Ohio is the state with the most Amish people. They are masters of craftsmanship and surprisingly big dog breeders. The garage sale pro. These Ohioans can spot an antique from 30 feet away. The Clevelander. Sports superfans who are used to heartbreaks. The farmer. people in Ohio who actually live on a farm. The weather obsessor, someone who is constantly checking the weather apps because Ohio's weather is insane. The Buckeye superfan, they have more Ohio State shirts than actual clothes, and Saturdays in the fall are sacred. The deer hunter, Ohio is filled with deer and deer hunters. The small town goer, many people in Ohio live in small rural towns where everyone knows each other. The county fair champ, someone who has been showing hogs and cows since they were young. The high school football diehard, they will never miss their hometown team playing even if it's freezing rain. If you know any other Ohio people, comment below. Ohio's smaller cities might surprise you. Some of them changed the course of history. Chillicothe, Ohio's first state capital known for Native American earthworks. Mount Vernon, Ohio has a massive geocentric open-air dome. Zanesville is known for this rare Y-shaped bridge where you can cross and be on the same side of the river. Also, you can't forget the infamous exotic animal escape of 2011. Springfield, it was once a major hub for farm equipment, but it was made famous recently from the presidential debates. Athens, home to Ohio University and one of the biggest Halloween parties in the country. Newark is famous for the largest basket in the world, and Steubenville is known as the city of murals. Sandusky is known for Cedar Point, but in the 1800s it had the largest ice harvesting port of the Great Lakes. Also, speaking of the Great Lakes, did you know they're the second largest body of fresh water in the world? Oberlin is home to Oberlin College, the first college in the United States to admit women and African American students. Yellow Springs, Ohio's most colorful small town. It has a great art scene, street fairs, and it's home to Dave Chappelle. Also, it has an actual yellow spring in its nature preserve. How many of these Ohio small towns have you been to? Springfield, Ohio.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs.
The city made famous from the presidential debate has an interesting story. For a while, it was one of the richest small cities in the United States because it was a hub for farm equipment. It was once known as the city at the end of the road. Route 40 was the first federally funded highway in the United States, but funding ran out and it stopped in Springfield. So families migrating out west would just end up in Springfield. This caused an explosive population growth in Springfield for over a century, as you can see here. But since 1970, the population has fallen by 25%. The city's economic foundation was built on manufacturing jobs, which are gone. But surprisingly, Springfield does have some beautiful buildings for a smaller city, like the Heritage Center Museum or the Westcott House, the only prairie-style home in Ohio. The city was also important during the Underground Railroad, and the city was once home to Gus Sun's famous traveling circus. John Legend is also from Springfield. Oh, and I made some cool Ohio merch if you want to check it out at jakeexplains.com. Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati. Ohio's three main cities are actually quite different. Cleveland is on Lake Erie, Columbus is flat, and Cincinnati is hilly and along the Ohio River. The population history of the three cities is very interesting. Cleveland had a massive boom and bust going from 900,000 to 350,000. And Columbus is the only Rust Belt city that never lost its population. Historically, they're different too. Cincinnati was a hub during the steamboat era, Cleveland was a steel and oil city, and Columbus has been the state capital since 1816. Columbus has the most vibrant LGBTQ community, and it has Ohio's largest tech scene. Cincinnati is the city with the most hipster vibes, and Cleveland has that lakefront grit. Cincinnati is also the beginning of the South. People say it's a southern Midwestern city. They are all major sports cities. Cleveland and Cincinnati have more major league teams, but Columbus has the famous Ohio State Buckeyes. Columbus is pretty much centered around Ohio State, and it's basically a college city. Columbus has Short North and German Village, and it's definitely the city with the most sprawling suburbs. Cleveland has the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the famous Cleveland Clinic. Cincinnati is also the city with the best architecture. It has Over the Rhine, which is one of the largest intact historic neighborhoods in the United States. But you also can't forget about the beautiful Union Terminal. Ohio's three main cities are classic Midwestern cities, but they have completely different geographies, economies, and histories in general. What's your favorite of the three? I actually made a poll, and it was very close. And I made Ohio merch that you can check out too at jakeexplains.com.